Sir, good afternoon. Should we start or should we wait for a few more minutes for others to join? Because I can see only two people have joined. Okay, this Pradyumna and Soumyaranjan. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have any idea whether your other friends are joining or you do not know them?
Know that, sir. About.
No, sir.
Sorry? ଜାଣିଛ ସେମାନେ ଜଏନ୍ କରିବେ କି ନାହିଁ?
ନାଇଁ ସାର୍
ନାଇଁ ସାର୍
ଜାଣିନି।
କହିପାରିବନି।
ଆଚ୍ଛା, ଠିକ ଅଛି. So let us wait for another 5 minutes. Let us see.
ଆଜ୍ଞା।
Okay, very good afternoon. I welcome you all to this class. I can see, I think around six people have joined. So let us start because it is already 10 minutes. So I can see Pradyumna. Pradyumna, should we start now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, I think this is quite a time that we had the last class. So the let me recapitulate or revise what we discussed in the previous classes, then we move forward. I think the basic objective of this paper is to uh, design research plans to carry out research that you are interested as an anthropologist. Because anthropology is a subject that studies human beings and their society and culture wherever they live. So, to understand humans and their society, one needs to ask a question about what you want to understand, then make a plan of studying them, going there, staying, living there, and then collecting information from people that you are interested to study, and then compile all those information that you collect from those studies, analyze it, write a report or a dissertation or a thesis, and submit it in order to get a degree. That is, if you are practicing anthropologist as a student or as a scholar. But if you want to utilize anthropological knowledge and do research for the welfare of the people or other developmental plans to be followed up based on the results, so that again is a different kinds of research. So as a student of masters, so what is the objective and what exactly you would expect from this whole paper on research methodology is to understand what is research, why to do research, what are the different components of carrying out research, and how to make meaning out of the research in the form of report. And couple of things we have already discussed. And what we have discussed is what is research, how to design it, and then what are the different steps in doing research. And before that, we also discussed fieldwork tradition in anthropology because anthropology grew as a colonial discipline. It started with European expansion when Europeans in 17th, 18th century went to different parts of the globe. They came in contact with different kinds of people that they were interested to understand their culture. They wanted to govern them. So that is why in their attempt to understand more of the people, they collected directly information, but before directly collecting them, they compiled the studies of travelers, like the travelogues, then the documents of the religious preachers, the priests, and other writers from different fields. But they were called as armchair anthropologists because they did not do field work, because field work becomes important in carrying out research. But then you have people like Bronsler Malinowski, Franz Boas, and others who came later on, Redke Brown and others, who started, especially Malinowski started work on Trobriand Islanders. He lived with the people that he studied. So to give a unique perspective on people's perspective, people's view on different social happenings, social phenomena that he was interested in. So anthropology started giving importance to primary data collection to understand things that they are interested in. So fieldwork as a tradition grew in the discipline. And with primary data collection as objectives, anthropologists also developed number of tools and techniques. If you remember, I had given the example of tractor, plow, and the axe as example of tools for cultivation. Similarly, for data collection, there are a number of tools and techniques that we discussed. I'm just revising what we discussed so that you are fresh to start new things. And then what else we discussed is what are the different steps in research? Steps in research is asking a simple or complex research question that you would like to understand or know more. Then doing a review of literature means reviewing what others have done on the topic. Then after review, sorry. So after review, what you do is uh, you finalize your research questions, or reframe it, set your objectives. Then after that, you also do little bit of reading on the community that we want to study. That is called area and people, knowing the people and the area that you would like to study. Then the next step would be design a method or methodology where you would have all the tools and techniques ready to dig out data or to collect information for the problem that you have designed or you have set for yourself. So that is called methodology, which is very important, and that is important component of doing research. And in that you collect data that becomes your finding or result. You come back, compile all your findings, whether in the form of quantitative data in terms of numbers or qualitative information in terms of narratives, statements, or case studies, and then you thematically or otherwise arrange all those information, give meaning to that, then you discuss it, you critically analyze the finding, and write a report based on that. Once you write the report, then you submit in the form of dissertation or a thesis, then you get awarded. This is what exactly you will be doing for your masters. And in the last module, I think the last paper, uh, I think for you it is called block. So in the last or the sixth block, you would have that how to write a project proposal, a project report that we will discuss in the last class. And once you have done that, done the report, what is the logical next step? The next step is either you are satisfied, get the degree or awarded degree based on your dissertation, and then you make a career either in anthropology or you go to other field. Or the next logical step would be you spend more time on that, rewrite it, then give it a form of article as an academic article to be published in a journal or a professional platform so that more and more people who are peer, who are your friend working in similar kind of topic, interested to read and know more about your study. So that becomes your research article. So then that comes to the domain of that is called comes to public domain. Come to a space, a platform where anybody or everybody can read. And that becomes literature for others to do. So research is a cyclic process. It's like a circle. You ask a question, design it, frame it, make methodology, go for fieldwork, collect data, publish it. Then it comes to public domain. Then it becomes a place for question for others. So questioning, so research is asking a question, trying to get answer to the question. Again, based on the answer, you frame new question. So it is a cyclic thing. So this is what we discussed in the previous class. And today we are going to discuss the research design. Can anybody tell me whether you understand what I said or you relate what we discussed? Otherwise, I will just go on. And okay, let us come to research design. In research design, there are three units that we will discuss. One is review of literature and statement of research problem. Second is unit is theory. Third unit is research design. So let us begin with unit 1, review of literature and statement of research problem. As I said earlier, research review of literature is an important component of research because and part of research design. When you design a research, how to means you first you ask a question, that question becomes a problem. That question becomes the core attention of doing research. And for that, the most important or essential component is to know more about the question that you have asked, a question at your hand, or the research topic that research question means the topic that you have chosen to study is your problem. Then why should it be called as a problem? How the problem can be asked? How questions can be formed out of this? This is what we will discuss. But before that, once you have asked a question, suppose, like we discussed in the previous class, why dropout rates in Odisha has gradually come down. Suppose this becomes a small question. Or you can ask a question like, why in a city like Bhubaneswar, when there are two kinds of auto rickshaws, one auto rickshaw that is meant for all kinds of passenger, then there are also another kind of auto rickshaw called pink autos, pink color autos meant for female passengers. One may ask, may have a curiosity to understand why pink autos are not popular in Bhubaneswar. One would say that, okay, the atrocities against women are rising. Women may not be feeling safe, but still, auto rickshaws are not popular. So, if that becomes a question, so you can have any social problem as a question, as a research problem. In case this pink auto becomes your object of study, your problem, then how to proceed? And in the context of this topic, what is review of literature? Review of literature means you have to review the literatures or the write-ups that have been done by others before you have started your work. Decide to work on a topic, what others have worked, what others have done on that particular topic, either here, the place where you are interested, in this case in Bhubaneswar, or elsewhere. Maybe what was the case in Delhi or Bombay or in Bangalore or in Patna or any other place in the country or outside. What has been the experience? What has been the finding? So that you need to review. And review of literature broadly has two objectives. The first objective is to understand what others have done. Second, what others have not done, or what they have neglected, or what mistake they have committed, so that you can learn. So by these two, what they have done, you can review what X, Y, Z, A, B, C, what 10, 20, 30, 40, or thousands of people have worked on the same topic, what are their findings, what are the reasons they found, what are the problem that is specific to specific cities, a specific kind of people, gender issues, policy issues, infrastructural issues, n number of issues will be related to the topic. So if you read all those articles, all those write-ups, then you know. Once you review, then you know more about the problem, so that you can refine your question, you can ask better questions. That is one objective. And then second objective, as I said, what has not been done, that means finding the gaps in earlier studies. If you have reviewed 10 studies relating to your topic, relating to your research problem, you may find 8 topics are relevant to you, 2 topics are not relevant, or 7 topics talk about similar kind of thing, and no topic out of these 10, no topic has covered something that you are interested in. Suppose you are interested in understanding pink autos are popular in areas where there is more policing, more street lights. So whether availability of street light in the evening has any link to popularization or use of pink autos. You may say that when there is no street light, people would not prefer a ordinary auto or general auto. They would prefer pink auto driven by either a female driver or all the passengers are female. So a female passenger would prefer to travel with other female co-passengers when it is evening, when it is dark. So if there is no street, suppose this is something that you find interesting, but you do not find in all other 10 studies. So, but if you want to take that, so review, that means this becomes a gap that is being a neglected area in others' research. The reason could be many. Reason could be in the cities that have been studied. Maybe there are street lights everywhere, so that is not an issue in those areas. Or maybe the researcher has omitted, or it has not clicked to his mind. So, so review of literature serves these two purposes. So let us in detail discuss what review of literature means. So review of literature is a task that continues throughout the duration of the thesis. That means review of literature is an important part that is required before you start the research. Means you ask the question, you do review to know more. That is the place where it is required more. Again, review of literature is also required after you have collected your data, after you have finished your data collection through ethnographic fieldwork or otherwise. Then you also need a review of literature in order to situate your finding, in order to contextualize your finding, in order to give meaning to your finding. So, review of literature is something which is very, very important aspect of research, whose place in the entire, as I said, research is a circle kind of thing, asking question and getting answer. If it is a circle, then the place of review of literature can be at any point of time, any place. So that is why it is it continues throughout the duration of the thesis. Since thesis aims to contribute to knowledge, A careful check should be made that the proposed study has not previously been carried out. Another important aspect of doing review of literature is to ensure that the question that you are asking, the problem that you have taken into account, is not a repetition, it's not a copied work, and that this particular topic has not been done by others. For example, somebody is interested in doing, suppose, in the literature of Upendra Banja. He wants to understand how the status of women has been discussed in Gopinath Mohanty's novel. Suppose somebody wants to do research on this, the portrayal of the status of women in the novels or the literatures of Gopinath Mohanty. If that is your research topic, then one needs to be reasonably ensured or sure that this topic has not been done by others. Otherwise, it will be repetition, and as per the norms of UGC, you cannot copy, you cannot redo something which has been already done. Same topic, exactly same. You should not do. So, how do you know that it is not a copied one? It is not exactly similar work that is already being done. You will know only if you do a review of literature, what has been done by others. Then, a literature review in a research study accomplishes several purposes. It shares with researchers the results of other studies that are closely related to study being reported. So it will give you enough information about, or it will add to what you already know, or it will give you information about what are the closely related works that have been done. And it also relates to study the larger ongoing dialogue in the literature about the topic. If you do the review of literature, it will also help you to understand what are the arguments people talk about this issue, what people discuss. In newspapers, people would discuss which are socially relevant topic. So review of literature would help you to understand why your topic of interest is so relevant. Why pink auto is such a relevant topic? Because it is linked to women, status of women, safety of women, other gender issues. Similarly, dropout is also very interesting area, and it has social relevance. You come to know its relevance only once you do review of literature. So that becomes the purpose of review. And then coming to survey of literature, then how do you do review? Review means surveying or studying or reviewing others' work. Then how do we go about it? We do that because you have limited time. For example, at masters, you have only few months time to decide a topic, do review of literature, then do followed by that devise a tool, followed by that you do field work, then collect data, then come back, then you analyze it, write report, submit it. So it's a time taking process. So in order to economize, in order to have a proper planning, you need to you must know how to survey literature in minimum time. So there are two ways I can say. One is the traditional way of doing review of literature that is written in your text that is supplied to you by IGNOU. And there is also another way because now technology has moved very fast. You have Google or Google Scholar particularly that is available as a platform that would help you to have access to number of research articles so that at sitting at home you can read a lot of literature a lot of findings of studies that have been done by others. So how to do that? Friends, I would ask you if you already know using Google. Using Google Scholar will again be very easy. You go to Google, type Google Scholar, Scholar, Google Scholar. Once you click Google Scholar, then the site would open. You type whatever you want to know. Suppose you are interested on women's health, you are interested on gender issues, you are interested in impact of government's policy programs, you are interested in particular disease profile or health of a population. So whatever you are interested, you type those words, keywords, few keywords you type in Google Scholar, and it will throw you, it will show you number of research articles related to that. If you are interested in a population, for example, tribal population, so you just write health among the tribal or mental health among the tribes of India, then hundreds of articles will be shown on your screen. So you choose certain articles, and some articles can be downloaded free of cost, some would have price for that. So the free ones will also be enough, so you can download. That becomes a review of, that becomes the literature on related topic that you can sit at home and study or read. Why? To get more ideas about the topic. And the second, the traditional method of review of literature that I was referring is something that you go physically, because that was the practice before computer or internet becomes too much accessible, too cheaper or available everywhere, or even mobile phone. So when all these internet and mobile phones and computers were not very popular, easily available, people used to go to the library, go to specific research journal section, and each journal they have to browse, they have to go one page by page to understand what are the findings of those studies relating to the topic that they are interested in. And then there are number of citations, sources, journals, books, and index that is available in the library that would help you to find out specific articles, specific books dedicated to the topic of your interest. Then you go, either you make photocopies or you sit down, write important points. That was the practice earlier. But now, sitting at home, you may get access to all recent sources or write-ups or articles in the field. But only problem would be how to find what is relevant and what is not. That becomes because it is bombarded with lot of information. Sometimes you will be flooded with information relating to your topic, and you have to choose carefully which article or which source you would take to, to read and know more. There, what you can do is you can choose articles, books, or sources that are close to your own topic. And you first you read 5 or 10 good articles, one or two books. Then your idea will be opened up. Your ideas about your topic will be changed and it will be refined. All your questions, which were very, very broad earlier, will become very specific. More specific the question, the easier to get good quality data. And in order to get ideas about questions related to the topic, it is essential to do good review. And to do good review, one is sourced through internet, sitting at home, one can do. Another is to visit libraries, archives, and museums and other places where data relating to your area of interest are available. Then comes sources. So there are three kinds of sources. Normally, people say two. One is primary source, say second is secondary source. Primary source is something that you, as a researcher, you collect yourself. If you want to understand dropout rates among the Munda of Keonjhar, then you have to go to Keonjhar, stay with the Munda, understand their problem. That becomes data for you, both quantitative and qualitative, or quantitative or qualitative. So that becomes primary because you have yourself have gone to the field, collected data. That is your data that you can, based on that, write something. Secondary is something which you are relying on others. Means others have studied. Maybe there are five people who have studied this Munda of same Keonjhar earlier than you. But you are reading their books, their articles, their news items in order to understand more. That becomes second resource for you. That is not gathered by you. So this is the traditional definition or idea about what is primary and what is secondary. But in your literature that is provided to you, they have classified into three: primary source, secondary, and tertiary source. Primary becomes information that include first-hand account of experimentation or investigation, whether published in article or being narrated by the person. So anything that is first hand, that is collected by the people who has written this becomes primary. And secondary source of information are summarization of information. If somebody has written a book based on primary data, he has gone there, he has written a book. If somebody else is summarizing it, rewriting and giving another interpretation to that, that becomes secondary. And then your text is also talking about tertiary source. So, which is usually examples of tertiary sources of information since textbooks. So, textbook because these are generally compiled from secondary sources. Textbooks, for example, the books that you find in your library, these are all textbook. They are not reference book. There are two kinds of books. One is reference book. You can refer because this is based on primary. That is written by the person who has done this, who has given this idea, who has given this fact. He has gone, he has studied. And textbook is something that compiles from different sources. So textbook becomes tertiary source. And it is also important to learn how primary sources are used in a qualitative, questionnaire, and mixed method of research. In qualitative research, the investigator, okay, friends, now you also understand that when we define research, there can be three kinds of, basically, three kinds of research. One, qualitative research. It's about method. Second, quantitative. Third, mixed. What is qualitative? Qualitative is something that address the why question. Suppose if you want to know that how many people from Santal community are, how many male members are addicted, how many young people are addicted to different kinds of alcoholic beverages. When I say how many people, that means this is about number, this is about quantity. So, what you can do, you go to a village, select 100 household, do a survey or a census. Suppose there are 100 household, per house 5 member, you that makes it to 500 people. Out of 500 people, there are 400 adult, means they are from 18 years to 60 plus years. There are 100 below that. And if you take all the adults, suppose they become 400. Out of 400, both male and female, 300 people are addicted to one or the other kind of alcoholic beverages. That means it is a high percentage. It is more than 75% of people are addicted. So you would say 75% people are addicted. That means 300 out of 400, total 400 adult are addicted. That is quantity. But if you ask a question, why Santal male members are more addicted than the old people or than other tribes? Why? When you ask why question, it may not come in numbers, in percentage. It will have very subjective viewpoint by different kinds of people, different kinds of stakeholders. When your question becomes qualitative and the response to the questions in terms of narratives, case histories, or statements becomes qualitative, not in numbers, but in words, that becomes qualitative, then the review of literature should also be little different. So, for qualitative research, quantitative research, and mixed method means which combines both quantitative and qualitative research, design will be different. So, also review of literature, because we are discussing review of literature. So, review of literature Yes. Yeah, sorry, I think there was some internet connection issue in the campus. Hello, can anybody tell me where we got disconnected? Pragya Paramita. Hello, hello, Pragya, can you hear? Can anybody tell me where you listened the last? Because it is difficult because I was just talking without realizing that it got disconnected. Can anybody tell me so that I can restart from there? Anyway, what I was discussing, dear friends, was Pragya or Manish or Pita. Anyway, what I was explaining about importance of review of literature and review of literature. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Can you tell me, Shamya, where I left? Could you last कौन सुनिथिलो?
Study of literature.
हाँ लिटरेचर रे कौन शुणुला तो पूरा स्टडी ऑफ लिटरेचर को कारण मझे कोट कटिगला मत जानवाटा टिके डिफिकल्ट बट एनीवे मु रिपीट करूची जे रिव्यू ऑफ लिटरेचर वंस यू हैव chosen a research topic review of literature is the next step because you want to review what others have done on similar kind of and again I was discussing that has two important requirements. One, to know what has been done. Second, what not has been done. But it again, what are the sources? One is primary, secondary, then tertiary. Primary is what you do yourself. As a researcher, you have collected the data. That becomes primary. Secondary is if your data or your source dependent on the writers done by others in the form of or journal articles or report. But in your text, I find there are three different kinds of sources: primary, secondary, and tertiary. It is talking about textbook as tertiary source because that textbook is written based on secondary, means others' studies. But anyway, then the second kind of thing that we were discussing about, there are different types of research, different methods of research. One is a research problem which has qualitative questions that try to answer why question. And there are research which are quantitative in nature. And there are research which are mixed. So qualitative, quantitative, and mixed method. And the review of literature would depend largely on what kind of design or what kind of research you have. If you have a qualitative research approach, then sometimes in qualitative research approach, the study design is exploratory in nature. This is what we have discussed in earlier classes, different kinds of research. So in exploratory research, it may so happen that you will be doing it for the first time or very recently not much study has been done. Suppose pandemic related thing. This just happened recently, 3 years back. So not much literature available on certain aspects or something very new thing. So that would be exploratory. And in exploratory, most of the findings are in the form of narratives, statements, stories, case histories. So that would vary. But in so review of literature, much finding may or may not be available. And another aspect of qualitative research is it's based on conceptual models or theoretical models or theories. So it will be difficult to relate to all kinds of settings. Contrary to that, quantitative research, lot of review articles, review resources are available. So that is why you should also know what kind of research is at your hand, and what are the resources you must find. Second common, where do you find all those materials? You find those materials physically in the libraries, in the archives. You go to library, you go to journal section, book section, you ask the librarian, I am interested in this kind of topic, what are the books? He would provide you a catalog. In the catalog, if it is a soft copy of the catalog, you can put Control F, type your topic of interest. It will show you list of books or journals. If it library doesn't have soft version, means computers or internet, then you can go to the physical catalog. That used to the practice earlier. Nowadays, most of the things are digitally stored so that it becomes much more easier. As I was saying, I do not know whether you could hear that. Nowadays, Google Scholar becomes the major platform that helps you to do review of literature. Google Scholar is just like Google or Google Image. Google Scholar is a site or is a platform where all professionally written research articles or journals lists are available. If you want to work on, for example, the impact of COVID-19 on small scale industries in Odisha. So you just type COVID plus small scale industry in Odisha, it will show you hundreds of articles. Then you pick some articles will have full access. Means the whole article you can read. Some articles may not, it will just show you the abstract, only few paragraphs or one paragraph. Not the whole article. It is paid journal. You have to pay for that. Some are free available. And if you suppose as a student of IGNOU, if IGNOU has subscribed to those journals, then as a student of IGNOU, if you have ID, password, then you can have access to those articles. You read. Then that would help you to do review, means to read more and know more about the topic that you are interested in. And what are then comes the step to conduct a literature review. The first would be identifying keywords. As I said, you choose a topic, then keywords. Keyword will help you to take you to that book or to specific article. Then library catalog holding, then journal articles and books, then literature map. Once you have collected all those books, articles, then you have to theme-wise arrange them. If COVID and small scale industry and Odisha as a place are three important keywords in your topic, then you have to thematically arrange them. All articles relating to Odisha, you can put it. All articles relating to small scale industry, even if it is Odisha or outside Odisha, you put them together. Then anything to do with COVID-19, then Odisha, then small scale industry. So you can thematically arrange all those literatures, then start reading one by one. So that would help. So as I said, searching is in the library or in the virtual mode in Google Scholar. And then comes the reason for writing a review of literature. Why do people write review of literature? Because you need to know what is already known in connection with the research area that you are interested in, and because the researcher does not want to be accused of reinventing the wheel. That means what has already been done, you do not want to be seen as somebody who is repeating or copying things which have already been done. Because research is something that you do which has some novelty, means newness in it. And whether it is new or not, you know only if you do review. Second, you can also learn from other researchers' mistakes and avoid making the same ones. So if you do review, you also come to understand what are the mistakes that others have done, and you do not commit the same mistake. And another thing is you can learn about different theoretical and methodological approaches in the research. If you read others' article on similar issue, then you know what are the methods they have adopted, what are the tools and techniques they have used, what are the conceptual framework they have used. So you learn from them. I'm not saying you copy from them, but you learn and you imitate from their study. You take their ideas and apply in your own study design. So that helps you. And it also helps you to develop an analytical framework. Once you have collected your data, how to analyze, how to give meaning to that, how to critically evaluate your findings. So that would help you only if you do good review of literature. And it will also help you to consider the inclusion of variables in the research. Variable means, suppose if you want to see one variable, in this case, suppose small scale industry, what is the input? For example, one variable is states support during COVID 19, the support by the bank, support by NGOs, support by philanthropists, something like that. Then these are all variables. How you know how you set your variables? If you do good review of literature, if you study others' write up, then you come to know all those different dynamics, all those different complicated variables they have taken into account. So that would give you an idea to select all those variables for your own study. And it will also help you to further research questions. Suppose you have initiated with one or two research questions, but if you read others' work, it will help you to streamline, to pinpoint, or to help you to refine your own research questions. And it will also help you in interpretation. Suppose you have data, but you do not know how to interpret, how to give meaning, how to contextualize. Then, if you read others, that would help you to do all these things. Then the next comes statement of a research problem. Once you have done a review, then the next logical would be to statement of research problem. So how to state a problem, research problem. So a research problem in general refers to some difficulties in which the researcher experience in the context of either theoretical or practical and want to obtain a solution. Research problem is something that bothers you. That is the difficulties that you find in designing the study. How to go ahead, go about the study. Whatever is the difficulties, that becomes your research problem. One research problem is your topic itself. And there must be an individual or group of organization to whom the problem can be attributed. And the individual or organization, as the case may be, occupies an environment which is defined by values of uncontrolled variables. Suppose if you want to study a tribal population, the people themselves becomes the problem. Problem in the sense, not the ordinary layman's term that we are using problem. Problem is a research problem because you want to know more about the Bonda tribe, more about Santal. So you need to study more about them. And there must be at least two courses of action to be pursued. A course of action is defined by one or more values. And in everyday research, there are four components, each having its own interest in research. In research, there are four important components. One is the researcher, the person who would carry out or conduct the study. Second is the research sponsor, means who will pay for the research. Suppose somebody has got a project from ICSSR, Indian Council of Social Science Research. That means the ICSSR becomes the sponsor because it will give you money to do. Sometimes the government gives, sometimes NGOs give, sometimes funding agencies also give money for research. So they become sponsor. And the third is research participant. If you carry out research on people, suppose a tribal community or a rural community, agricultural community, or any or students or drug addicts or a patient group, all those participants become another important component or stakeholders in research because they would reply to the questions. And the fourth, the last one is research consumers. Means once you do the research, who would make utilization of these research results? There are many. One, re- another group of researchers who are interested to formulate new question, they are the immediate consumer. Then the policymakers, because they want some feedback from the research so that they can try to improve the conditions of the people. So that is why there are four different components in research. One is the researcher himself or herself. Second is research sponsor, means the agency that gives money to carry out research. Third is research participants, means the people on whom you are going to study. And the fourth is research consumers, means after you have finished your research and write it in the form of report, dissertation, articles, or books, who is going to utilize? One is the reader, second is government people or policymakers who would like to utilize the research results for improving the conditions of the people, that those who have been studied. And then the, and for a research, one thing which must be clearly understood before finishing a research proposal is to who is the consumer of the research. And nowadays, as student of anthropology, you must also know this has become an ethical debate. To understand, you cannot do research on anything that you want to. Technically, theoretically speaking, one can choose a topic, anything that interests you. But ethically, the funding agencies that would fund you would ask you what is the social relevance of your research. If you are doing this kind of research, who is going to benefit from your research? That you need to justify. So that is why your consumer of the research need to be defined beforehand. And then, as for Murphan, there are three important components in the progressive formulation of the problem in social research, namely what one wants to know, why one wants to know, and possible answer to the question. Murphan is saying when you design a research problem, there are three important components. One, what one wants to know, what is your research topic, what you want to do research, what you want to know. Second is why you want to know that, what is the reason, what is the social relevance, what is the benefit that the society who is funding you is going to get out of it. And then what is the answer, what is the finding that would come out of it. So these are the three important things that when you formulate a research question, you should be careful. One, as we discussed, about the four important components you have to evaluate, that is, you as a researcher. Second, your sponsor who is sponsoring. Third, the people that you will study. Fourth, your consumers who would use it. And another layer of component that is important before you finalize your question is what you want to do, you should ask yourself why you want to take that topic, and then what would be the result? What would be the ultimate utility value of those results? And after this comes the rationale of the question. Why at all the question is worth putting forward? How the answer to the question is likely to be contribute either to theory or practice. Some people may also argue that all kinds of research may not have immediate value. Suppose somebody would say all scientific research may add to immediate benefit to the society. If somebody is working on drug delivery, the drug may help people to eradicate disease or something to prevent a disease. But if somebody is working on historical research or research into literature, somebody would say, if you are working on literature, how the literature is going to help? No. Sometimes some fundamental research are required only to add to the wisdom and knowledge of people. That should also be encouraged. So, theoretically speaking, all different kinds of questions can be taken as research topic, but specifically saying, ethically speaking, and speaking by taking into account funding agencies or sponsors' point of view, your research topic should have some relevance, should have some significance, should have some societal value before you finalize it. You must take into account all those things. And what are the conditions conducive for formulation of research problem? One is researcher must be well aware of the area in which he is going to research. That means when you choose a topic, this is very important. Please listen. This is very important because in your, I do not know which semester, but before you complete your master's, you'll be required to write a paper that is called dissertation or report writing. So in that you would struggle to find a good research question. You may ask your teachers, you may ask your friends, you may ask acquaintance, or you may Google it to find what is interesting because there are so many n number of thousands of questions around you. But which one is interesting? Which one is important? So you should be very aware of. You should choose a topic which has some literature already available, some knowledge already available. Mind it, you can always go for a very, very new topic which people have not worked upon. But it is easier, it is better that you formulate a question where there is some background information available. That makes it easier for you. And it's going to, so you should be well aware of your topic. Then you should also well conversant with the different theories in the field. And you should choose a topic where different theories or different conceptual models are already available. If you want to, for example, study what we were saying, the pink autos in Bhubaneswar, then the theory from gender, feminism or feminist theory would be important. So you should well versed with all the theoretical perspective, theoretical conversations that goes on in the field. And the next would be to have a full knowledge of the findings of the studies of others in the field and also report and available records. You should also equally be aware of the inconsistent theories and abridged gaps. So before you choose a topic or a problem or you finalize it, you should also get acquainted with different kinds of theoretical arguments, theoretical debates, and discussions made around that particular topic. And you should be able to read the works of others, understand it, analyze it, evaluate it, and find the gaps, strengths, and weaknesses of those studies. If you can do this, then your own research design or your own problem setting would be a better one, a qualitative one. And then you should also seek enlightenment from experienced persons, including administrators, researchers, and others. That means when you set a question, you should discuss with as many people as possible. Just do not select a topic, work on it, start working on it. Before you finalize the topic, before you finalize your research specific objectives, do review of literature, prepare tools and techniques. You must discuss with people who are more experienced than you, either your seniors, your teachers, people around you who have interest in research, who have done research. Talk to them. They would give you some feedback, some help. Then another conducive factor is that the researcher should have a critical, curious, and an imaginative frame of mind. To become a good researcher, it is not only that you follow the methods or the steps that I've said, you should also be very curious. You should have interest to know more and more. You should be very, very curious. And you should also be imaginative. You should always think more and more about your own topic. That would help you to move further. And all those operational things we have discussed it, but I'll just repeat all those things. Means you have to always have to see that the problem that you have selected has a purpose. And then another factor is the individual research, whether it is practicable to study the problem, because you may choose a topic which may not be very practical. So research has to be very practical. It has to be free from ambiguity, means it should not have a lot of confusion in it, and it should have a clear cut pathway. So you should not choose a topic which is very, very complicated. And then you should also take into account time factor and money factor, because there are different kinds of research. As we discussed a little bit, I was talking about a sponsor as a second component, researcher, then the research sponsor. So there are research where there are sponsors, means agencies who would support, who would finance your research. But there are also research where you have to do your individual research. There is nobody to support you financially to carry out research. Then you have to see that if I am designing a research, whether whatever money I have, whether I can carry out that, whether I would need more money. If your research, if you have, suppose if you are based in Odisha, and if you want to understand, suppose voting behavior of people of Odisha, then if it is people of Odisha, then you have to have a representative sample from different parts of Odisha, east, west, south, north. If that is so, then you have to travel maybe not 30 districts, but at least 4 districts from each zone. So that would be very expensive. Traveling, lodging, food, everything. So whether your project can support that, or if it is individual research, you are supporting, you are financing your own research, whether you can give that. In that case, maybe you can minimize your study that voting behavior of the city of Cuttack or Bhubaneswar or Puri, wherever you stay. So you can have a small study so that if you have little money, you can design. So when you design a topic or a research problem, money is also one of the critical factors or factor that you need to evaluate. Similarly, time is also important factor you need to take into account. Well, if you are a master degree student, you have only 1 or 2 months for field work. If you are doing PhD, you have enough time. You have 2 years for field work. So time depends on your research topic, depends on what position you are in. So you have to evaluate all these important factors while doing it. And then you should also be very careful while designing who becomes your research participants. If you want to, for example, let me give you a small example. If you want to study a tribal community, a rural community, an urban community, suppose, and in your study design, whatever is the problem, suppose in your plan you have 100 people to interview for the study to be completed. Which one would be easier to do, a tribal or a rural or a urban? My own experience would say tribal would be difficult in the beginning because if you go to a tribal village, you are a stranger, people would take time to accept you as a member of their community or as a friend or and but that may take 2 3 days. If even if after 2 3 days you get along with them, you become friendly with them, they would accept you. From day 4 5 6 onwards, it will be easier to interact with anybody. You don't need to take appointment to meet people in tribal village or interact. You can sit down with people, have cup of tea, and then start a dialogue, collect information. They would be happy to give you. But initial 2 3 days, when you are unknown to them, you are a stranger to them, they will not open up, they will not say anything. But as you go on interacting with them, making friendship, they would. To a rural village, people will be little suspicious. They would take more time, maybe 4 5 days or 1 week, to accept you. They would not open up, not easily say things. But once you become friendly, after 1 week or 10 days, they would open up, say things. They will be very critical, very analytical, very systematic in giving answer compared to tribals, but difficult to track the first layer. But if you come to the urban areas, people are very critical, very opinionated. If they agree, they would tell you, give you a lot of information. But getting access to people in urban areas would be very, very difficult. If it is a household survey, tribal area would be much easier. Maybe initial 2 3 days difficult. Rural maybe an initial 7 days difficult, but then it is easy. But in urban area, even if you stay for a month, people will not be very welcoming. They would not give access to you. So, what I'm trying to emphasize or say here is when you design your study, you also evaluate who are the population, what kind of individuals you're going to interview, what kind of topic. If you're working on a topic related to suicide and drug addiction, on alcohol consumption, on issue like theft. So these are all sensitive issues. People may not be, or on family planning. So these are all sensitive issues. People may not open up so easily. So you need to keep more time for rapport establishment, for building trust, building relationship. Then only you will get good quality data. But if you do just a survey, whether you have bicycle, television at your home, whether you are getting all those pensioner benefits, or whether how many children you have, what is the level of education, all this basic information people would easily give. But if you ask people about very sensitive issues, they may not easily open up. So, depending on your research question, research topic, you need to allocate time, also choose specific kind of tools If you remember the example that I had given about tractor, plow, and other thing, so the tool need to be also selected based on kind of people. If you are studying young people, time allocation tools will be different. If you are studying old and very old, tool will be different. If you are studying pregnant women, design, study, time, tools, everything will also be very different. So these things need to be taken into account while designing your research. Second comes your theory part. Like science theory and hypothesis are interconnected. Because when you design a research problem, then hypothesis. Hypothesis means assumptions. Because you need to begin with a lot of assumptions in study. For example, you want to study smoking behavior of students. Whether students living in a college hostel smoke more cigarette or chew more tobacco compared to students who stay with their parents or day scholars. Hostelers versus day scholar. If you want to compare, then you start with one hypothesis. The hypothesis or assumption is you you by after doing review, you would say people who stay in hostel they smoke more, means average number of cigarette is more per day because they are free from the surveillance of their parents or their immediate society. They are relatively free, they are liberal, and they are with their close friends, so they do not have much inhibition to smoke. So they become addicted. Their average number of cigarette is more, or cup of tea or coffee or chewing tobacco is more compared to students who stay with their parents. So you go with this assumption. Then to prove that assumption or assumption becomes hypothesis, what you do, you take a sample. You take a sample of control group, like 100 students from hostel, 100 day scholar. You ask them, you design your study, a tool becomes your schedule, means set of questions. You ask, first, you're staying in hostel, how many, whether do you smoke? If you smoke, yes, then how many cigarette per day? When you started, when you took admission in the hostel in the first year, how many cigarette you were smoking? After 6 months, after 1 year, after 1.5 years, how many, whether it increased? And why did you smoke? What becomes the motivation? People would say that, okay, smoking cigarette or taking cup of tea gives a kick to us, so I study at night, so that because I play with my friends in the evening, I don't study, I spend time. But when it is midnight, I start studying. In the midnight, when I feel drowsy, I take a cup of tea or I smoke a cigarette. That becomes my motivation. Then I study hard, so to do well. Suppose that could be the narrative people give. But 100 people you collect number of cigarette. But contrary to that, if you ask the day scholar, they would say, no, my parents, they are permissive, there is no issue. So the situation may be different than what you assume. Your assumption was cigarette smokers average would be more for hostelers. But contrary to that, you come out with a result which is just opposite. I'm just giving example. So maybe that it is different. If it is 5 cigarette per day in hostel and in day scholar it could be 1.5 or it can be 7 also. It can be more. Then you have to find out what is the context, what is the situation, what is the background where people take more. Then you have to collect narratives of people. And then there are, if it is a quantitative study, then you have to apply the statistical tool to compare the average number of smokers and relate it with other variables like education of mother parents, occupation of parents, kind of locality they live, kind of background they have, kind of cultural practice, the norms of the family. All those factors you need to evaluate to prove, to give a comparative assessment of hostelers and day scholars, to arrive at a conclusion to say who is smoking more compared to whom. So that is why in in research topics, so there are different kinds of research. If it is a exploratory research, you do not have much information available. You explore, you go on selecting a topic. Then there are research which are experimental in nature. In experimental, you have control group and you have experimental group. You have hypothesis, you test the hypothesis. You must have covered this in your statistics class. Then once you have all those narratives and data with you, then you put all those data into perspective. Then you find out certain themes that is emerging out of this data, and you analyze those themes, write your report based on the theme that is emerging. You put those themes as titles or subtitles, bring all those narratives or views of the people from the field or from the community to substantiate. And if it is a mixed method of study, mixed means combination of quantitative and qualitative, whatever you get as data from the table, you corroborate or add with the narratives and try to justify that. So, in that way, the theory that you have studied in review of literature, you put that theory as hypothesis in the context of your own research. Then that hypothesis need to be tested through observation. For example, as I said in the example of cigarette smoking by the hosteler and day scholar, if the theory is, suppose adolescents, when they are set free, suppose liberty and freedom becomes the vector idea. And liberty and freedom you get because when you are free from surveillance. People who students who stay in hostel, they are away from the immediate surveillance of their parents. So that becomes a theory under liberty. Then you apply that in your own study. Then you create a hypothesis that hostelers will smoke more. Then you go and study, take 100 hostelers, 10 day scholar, and you found out that yes, your study says hostelers smoke in an average 5 cigarette per day. Day scholars smoke 2 cigarette per day because they are under serious surveillance of their parents and immediate society. So this is based on your observation and data and test. And then your new the theory is supported. Whatever was the theory in the review of literature is supported by your data. But if you get something contrary to that, Then you say, or opposite to that, then you say, no, liberty and freedom may not always lead to more number of cigarette smoking. That may prohibit people to have self-control. If they are away from their parents, they have more self-control. They control themselves. They don't do it. So this is what normally in a research design we do. And then finally comes to the a little more about different kinds of research design. As I said earlier, one is the exploratory research design, where you go for exploring new things. That can be done in any field. It can be done in the field of agriculture or in the forestry. It can be done in the social sector. It can be done in demographic health behavior. Can be done in health. All different kinds of, or in education. So there are topics which are exploratory in nature. You want to understand new things. Then there are descriptive or diagnostic research design. You have to describe things, different aspects. For example, one of our students was working on the importance of flower in the lives of tribes of Odisha. So how flower plays important role in people's life. To somebody, it will be very, very ordinary topic. Why flower is something should be a subject of study. But what she did, the research scholar, she worked on the importance of flower, how flower is not just an aesthetic item, but flower is something that is a symbol of beauty. Flower is something that has a ritual value. Flower is something that has economic value. You can do business with flower. Flower is something that is used for worshipping at the same time on dead bodies. Flower is something that is also transported and then have inter community relationship. Flower is something that can be seen as good fortune, misfortune. Color of the flower can also tell many cultural importance. Colorful flower is something that is associated with exuberance, with happiness. Suppose white flower is something that is of sadness. So flower can have different angle to it. So that can be one kind of study. Suppose in descriptive study, you describe what are the different aspects linked to this particular study. We'll discuss in detail. Then another is experimental research design. Experimental is something where you have hypothesis into this. You take one control group and one observed group. The control group, you don't do much with that. But in experimental group, you put intervention in. For example, in experimental study design, suppose you would say that people who are given awareness program would have better outcome. Suppose there are TB patients. TB patients, people who, suppose this becomes a research problem. And in experimental study design, what you can do is you can take 100 people, 50 people, they are TB patient, another 50 also TB patient. But to one TB patient, group of TB patients, you provide them awareness. Maybe 3 days workshop every month for 4 months. Do the follow up. Tell them that okay, taking medicine will make you well. and if you discontinue, this would happen, this medicine works like this. Give them a lot of information, lot of awareness and education. And another group, you do not do anything, no intervention. So after 6 months, you find that out of these 50 who have been provided awareness, suppose 80% have been cured, 20% defaulted or not good result. But those who have been not been provided with any awareness program, the success rate is only 50% because they discontinued, because they did not have a lot of confidence, they did not have knowledge with them. So this kind of study would come under experimental study design. So there are research problems which can also have this aspect to that. Then there are other also like quasi-experimental study design. There are certain experiments or interventions attached to that, but it's not purely in quantitative terms. You do the experiment, but you take a lot of narratives with this. Then you have cross-sectional research and longitudinal research. So this you must understand. What is cross-sectional? What is longitudinal? Longitudinal is that kind of research where the subjects are followed in each time interval, regular time interval. Let me and cross-sectional is the one where same subjects are not followed. Let me give one example from growth studies. There was one German physiologist, his name is D. Montevilliers. What he did in 18th century, he took the measurement of his own son after he was born in every 6 months until his son became 18 years old. That means 36 times in every 6 months interval, he took the measurement of his son, found out the increase in height and weight, and plotted it in a graph to show the rate of growth. At what age his rate of growth was higher? He found that there are two occasions where the rate of growth was very high. One was when he was very young, within 6 months, and the one when he was adolescent. And we all know that during adolescent period, the period between 10 to 18 or 19 years age, our rate of physical growth is very, very rapid. All secondary sex characters, both among the male and female, grow at that time because of hormonal and genetic influence. So the rate of growth is high during adolescent period. And similarly, during young age, very young period, early first month, second month, the growth is also, and during first year also, the rate of growth is very high. So this is an example of longitudinal study because he measured the height and weight of his son continuously in every 6 months interval. Same individual, subject is same. So if you design a study where your research participants are same, you follow them again and again and again every year or every 6 months or every 5 years, whatever. Suppose if you want to study the mental ability of learning mathematics by public school students in Odisha. So what you would do? You would take 10 students or 100 students, you will evaluate them when they are in class 4, then 5, when they go to 6, when they go to 7. Suppose it's a 5-year study from class 4 to class 9, you evaluate the same students again and again and again. That becomes longitudinal study. What is cross sectional? Sorry, what is advantage and disadvantage with this study? The advantage with this study, this longitudinal study, is it gives very good result. The quality of result is good because it can tell. Suppose that Montevilliers' son's example, he can exactly say how the growth rate varies Why it varies? Suppose he did not give good food to his son for 2 years, then he saw that the growth rate was low. When he gave more food, intake of food is more, then he catch up with the growth. Then the rate of growth was high. That means this can be measured, this can be observed, but it is expensive in terms of time, in terms of money, because you have to wait. He had to wait 18 years just for one data. You have to wait 5 years to study the mental ability of the students from class 4 to 9. And now you see the cross sectional study. Cross sectional study is just opposite. You fix the year, but not the individual who will participate in the study. Suppose mental ability of the student, you study 100 students from class 4, another 100 students from class 5, another 100 students from 6, 7, 8, 9. Suppose 5 class, 4 to 9, 5 or 6 class, you select, but these students are unrelated. They are not same. They are different. But they belong to this age group, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Not same students. So in longitudinal, students are same. But when they graduate from class 4 to 5 or year 7 to 8 or 8 to 9, then you follow them. But here, age is fixed. People are not fixed. That is cross sectional. What is the advantage and disadvantage? Cross sectional studies, the advantage is it takes very less time, less money. You can cover more number of sample, more number of data, less period of time. But disadvantage is compared to longitudinal study, the quality of data may not be good. Means the inferences that can be done from the data may not be as good as longitudinal study because they are unrelated people. We do not know what is the growth trajectory. So this kind of research are also done in anthropology. Then case study design. Case study design is a qualitative research design where you take, I think I discussed in previous classes also, case studies. A case means case can be one individual can be a case, a family can be a case, village can be a case, a state or a country can be a case. Case is something that becomes focus of your study. Let me give you two examples to make it clear what case study design means. Suppose if you want to understand the number one problem that old age people face in India, you may have to study, take thousands of people to study what is the problem, or one can take just one individual, one old lady, Mirabai, for example. Her name is Mirabai. She is 85 years old. By taking Mirabai as a case, you can understand the plight of old people. Mirabai, for example, let me give you a little background of that lady. Mirabai born to a very poor family. She had 7, 8 siblings. She was the youngest one. She was not fed well. Her father and mother died when she was 4 years old. Her elder sister raised her. She did not have education. She had poor health because of malnutrition, but she got married in a well off family. She had good food after she got married. She gave birth to 10 children because she belongs to 1960s. Out of 10, 5 children died, another 5 survived, 3 sons and 2 daughters. They studied well. 3 sons have done good job, gone abroad, are in good service. 2 daughters married off well, are also well established. But now, no children is living with her. She's alone. Loneliness becomes the major problem for Mirabai. So, Mirabai's story can be linked to many people around the society or around the country. She is a case that she has raised well the students, children. She wanted her children to do well, but and for good reasons they have gone away for their own livelihood, but they have left the mother at home. They're sending money. She is having a comfortable life. She has all the amenities. She has all the comfortable everything, but psychologically, mentally, she's lonely. She's saying, "I have everything, but I have nothing." Suppose this is the story. So this is a case that resonates with many people around us. This is a social problem. This is a story that reflects, that captures the social reality of our society and the way society is transition, society is changing. And Mirabai's story resonates with many. It's not just isolated. People will say, "Oh, this is also the case in my family. This is also case in that village, other village." So just one case, but that also reflects. May not be the 100% of the case, but 10 or 15% of the cases in the society resonates with Mirabai's case. So Mirabai becomes a case to tell the real story of a society. So this becomes Mirabai as a case. This is individual can be a case. But and okay, let me give you another example. Suppose we discuss how COVID-19 has affected people who have lost their both their parents and India as a case. For example, there are 10 countries in Europe, 15 countries from Asia, 10 countries from Africa, 2 countries from Australia. Suppose there are a study involving 30 countries, and we take India as a case. India from Asia, Germany from Europe, Nigeria from Africa as cases, and to compare who have better adaptability. And we see that in Europe, where joint family system has already collapsed, such kind of children are put into orphanage. They're taken care of, but their emotional quotient is low. Country like India, where family structure, family values, joint family system is still relatively intact, they're taken care of by other families. In Africa, it is coming. Even the joint family system is still much better. They're doing well. Their emotional things are better, but health wise, the German children are better because they are put into the state supported hospital or care home. They're doing well. So, in what I'm trying to say, whatever is the result or outcome, but India, German, and Nigeria from three different continents become the case. So, a country can be a case and one individual can be a case. So, this kind of research design are also done in social science. Then the last one is a comparative research design. Comparative research design is when you design a study to compare two individuals, two communities, two groups, or two situations. And as we discussed in the first class, in anthropological research, as such, the way it has been inbuilt, it is an inherent part of anthropological research where it is comparative in nature. You always have a compare. But when you compare, then you need to keep in mind there should be metrics, there should be variables, there should be items which are comparable in nature. As we say, you cannot compare orange with apples. Similarly, when you are comparing two individuals or two communities, you should find out similar kind of things, similar metrics, similar parameters to compare. Then comes evaluation of research or evaluatory research and evaluation of research. There are a number of development programs going on by the government where evaluation of the monitoring and evaluation of research is done, and that is part of applied anthropology, where any program when it is implemented, that is also monitored and evaluated. So that is also one kind of research design where research is framed, research is designed to carry out research. So to conclude, let me say that there are different kinds of research questions. Based on research questions, you have to design. Some research may have may be exploratory in nature, some may be comparative in nature, some may be experimental in nature. So you have to discuss, see which one becomes the most appropriate design for your study. I think then it will be have a meaningful study, and then it can give good result. Thank you very much. I will stop here. If you want to ask anything, you can ask. Otherwise, we conclude here. Yes. Any question?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, guide us about project work, sir.
Project work.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that is your, I think, next to next class. I think project work is the last class. Then I would ask, I think, discuss with you project paper. Only thing what I can say is, suppose if you have a how to design a project, what are the project. I think what we discussed today, it will be like this. But if you have anything in mind, if you want to discuss, suppose this is a problem, how should I design? How should I carry out my project? That I can tell you. Otherwise, what is in theory in your paper, I will discuss in the next to next class. But if you have a particular problem you want to discuss, we can also do that on that day.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay. Okay. If you do not have much question, we stop here. I thank you all.